About 4 years ago, when I first broke up with my ex-boyfriend, I had an unfortunate experience that I can't forget. We will call my ex Eric, because I don't want to say his real name. Eric and I dated for a little over a year before the relationship ended. I decided to break up with him because he had become very possessive. He would call me several times a day to see what I was up to, and sometimes demanded I send him pictures to prove that I was where I said I was. The relationship grew very toxic, and I honestly couldn't breathe with him anymore. I should mention that it took me more than a month to break up with Eric, because each time I tried to leave him, he would threaten to hurt himself. I felt guilty for leaving him in such a vulnerable state. Eventually, I decided that enough was enough, and the day that I broke up with Eric, I felt free. After I ended the relationship with him, he would show up to my job with flowers and a card. At the time of the breakup, I was the manager of a department store in the mall. When he showed up with flowers, he would present them to me in front of customers, which was beyond embarrassing. I reported him to mall security after the second time, and he was asked to leave. The police were called that day, and he was trespassed, which means he could no longer enter the mall. Soon after he was trespassed from the mall where I worked, he began showing up at the gym I went to. I would walk my dog around the neighborhood, and he would be right there following me around. Each day his obsession with me just kept getting worse and worse. One day, while I was home alone taking a nap on the couch with my dog, I woke up to find Eric standing right over me. I was so startled by his presence that I screamed. He pulled his weapon on me and ordered me to be quiet. I was begging him not to hurt me, and that is when he put duct tape over my mouth. He told me to go into the bedroom and pack a bag. While I was packing a bag with clothes and personal items, he was watching me closely. I pulled my cell phone from my pocket to dial 911, and he snatched the phone from my hand and smashed it against the wall. I looked at his hand, which was cut from the broken phone screen. He picked up one of my favorite shirts and pressed it against his hand to help stop the bleeding. After I was all packed, we got into his car. I was looking around to see if anybody had seen me leave with him, and there were no signs of anyone. I was so scared and wondered how long it would be before people would start noticing that I had gone missing. The duct tape was still on my mouth when we left my house. After about 15 minutes, he removed the duct tape and started demanding answers about why I broke his heart. I kept apologizing and telling him that I never meant to hurt him. Each time I spoke, he would tell me to shut up and call me a liar. Each time he got angry, he would drive faster and faster, doing about 120 miles per hour. Each time he did it, he saw how scared I got and would laugh at me. He said he was trying to teach me a lesson. He kept saying he was going to show my family and friends what heartbreak feels like. At that moment, I knew that he was planning to hurt me badly. The entire ride with him was so scary. After 2 hours on the road, I started planning my escape. As he continued to drive, it was obvious that we were moving further and further away from the city. Minute by minute, I saw fewer people and fewer houses. I knew that I had to get away from him as soon as possible if I didn't want him to carry out whatever sinister plan he had. It was getting dark outside, and I knew that once night fell, I was screwed. As we continued to drive, a sign that said a fire station was nearby on the same route we were on. The sign cautioned drivers to drive slowly when driving by the fire station. I knew this would be the perfect opportunity to get away. As we approached the fire station, Eric started to slow down, and that's when I opened the door of the car quickly and jumped out. My body hit the pavement so hard I knew I had broken a bone. I looked down at my leg, which was bleeding. My wrist was visible broken, and I was in so much pain. I got up quickly and ran to the doors of the fire station. I started knocking on the door, desperately hoping someone would open. A tall man in uniform appeared and opened the door. He grabbed me before I collapsed on the floor, and some of the other guys came and helped him carry me to a couch. I could hear my ex's car speeding away. I could hear one of the firefighters calling for ambulance and police while the other assessed my injuries. The police and ambulance showed up quickly and I was taken to the hospital. My wrist was broken and I had cuts and bruises all over my legs and stomach. After surgery, I woke up in the recovery room with police officers sitting by the door. They told me that they had Eric in custody because the cameras from the fire station and nearby business place were able to pick up his license plate number. I told them everything that happened, and I learned that I was taken across 4 different counties within 2 hours. At the time, Eric was being held for questioning, but after telling the police what happened, his charges were upgraded to kidnapping and assault. My family came to pick me up from the hospital and take me home. They were in shock and hadn't even noticed that I was gone because everything happened in such a short amount of time. Thankfully, my rental lease was ending in 2 months, and I was able to leave the house I was renting and move somewhere safer with on-site security. I am grateful to be alive and plan to get to know someone better before getting into a relationship again. With the help of therapy, I have been able to start thinking about dating again.
3 months ago, I was dating a girl who I'd like to call Kathy. Kathy was really nice, but I could tell that there was something off. Sometimes her mood would go from happy to extremely sad in a matter of minutes. When she was in a good mood, we had a great time filled with lots of laughter. When she was in a sad or depressive state, she seemed to be easily irritated and would often just abruptly tell me to leave her place. Of course, I left each time she asked me to because I wanted to respect her wishes. One evening, I decided to have her over at my place for dinner with the thought that she couldn't kick me out of my own place. I figured if she wanted to end the night abruptly, she would have to deal with making the 30-minute trip back to her place. I noticed at dinner that her phone kept vibrating. She didn't even look at the phone once, and when I asked her if she needed to get the phone, she told me it was just a friend who was calling her. About 20 minutes into dinner, there was a knock at my door. I looked through the window, and standing there was a man with an angry demeanor. I opened the door, and before I could ask him what he needed, he pushed his way into my house. I started yelling at him to leave my house immediately. Kathy started screaming, and that's when he snatched her by the hair and pulled her across my living room. I started swinging at him, which made him focus his energy on me. While he and I were fighting, I saw Kathy run away out of the corner of my eye. I was so confused, I didn't know who this guy was or why he was in my house attacking Kathy. When we finally stopped fighting, admittedly because we had exhausted ourselves, he started crying. I asked him for an explanation as to why he was in my house attacking Kathy. He said he was her husband and he noticed that she was acting weird, so he decided to follow her, which led him to my house. The times I had gone to her house, her husband was at work. When her mood changed, it was always around the time she was expecting him to be home. I told him that Kathy had never mentioned being married and there were no signs in her home of a man. He pulled out his ID and showed it to me, which featured the same exact address as the place I had been going to spend time with Kathy. In the end, I didn't call the police or press charges. He apologized for coming into my home the way he did. I just want to say, I don't condone him putting his hands on Kathy the way he did at all. I just wished him luck and apologized to him as well. I blocked Kathy and never spoke to her again. Everyone be careful out there, stay spooked.
The story I'm about to tell you happened to me about 3 months ago. I dated a girl who we will call Melissa. We met at a bar one night when I was out with my friends and dated for about a month. Everything was good in the beginning. We hung out a few times during the week and had a lot of fun together. After about a week, I realized that Melissa was a little clingy. She would call me several times in a row if I didn't answer the phone. When I finally called her back and asked if everything was all right, she would be perfectly fine. She acted like calling me several times in a row when there was no emergency was normal. I continued spending time with Melissa, but not as often as we did in the beginning. She noticed I was distant after about the third week. "Is everything okay? You seem distant," she would say. I would brush it off and just blame it on the fact that I was busy. One night, I finally told her that I didn't think we should continue seeing each other. She got very upset and started throwing things around my apartment. Before she left, she told me that I was making a big mistake that I would later regret. It didn't feel like I was being threatened at all when she said that. I just thought that she felt like I would be missing out on something great. I was terribly wrong. After I ended things with Melissa, her craziness intensified. She would call me many times a day, sometimes 200 times in an hour. When I answered the phone, she would just breathe into the phone but never say anything. I ended up changing my phone number, and that's when I would see her green SUV parked across the street even in the middle of the night. I never saw her in her truck, but the truck was always there. I knew the truck belonged to her because she had a custom license plate. One day I was taking out the garbage and she pulled up next to me. She got out of her SUV and walked up to me. She apologized for everything and asked if we could be friends. I accepted her apology. She then asked if she could come inside to use my bathroom. I didn't want to allow her inside of my apartment, but I did anyway because I felt bad. We got to the door of my apartment, but suddenly I felt my head slam on the door. Then I felt the pressure of a hard object on my neck. "Open the door quickly and don't do anything stupid or else I will hurt you," she said. I couldn't believe this was the same girl who was apologizing to me in tears moments before. We finally entered my apartment with her pointing a weapon at me. We stood face to face and she looked very angry. She told me that I wasn't the first guy who abandoned her, but I would be the last. She fired at me once and missed, then she fired again and again. After 3 attempts, her weapon jammed, and I was able to wrestle it out of her hands. I held her down on my couch while I called the cops, who came in less than 5 minutes. I learned that a few neighbors had called when they first heard the shots. When the cops arrived, they arrested her and took my statement. Even though there was a restraining order in place, Melissa still wrote me letters from jail. I ended up moving out of state and feel a lot safer now.